Welcome to episode 5 of the Ghost Cube tutorial series. If you're new here, episode 1 is right here. If you want to watch along for entertainment, go ahead. So join me as we embark on the final step of the journey. Okay, and now, after we solve the first 2 layers of the cube, we'll solve the last layer. This happens to be the easiest step, so if you got this far, you probably can solve the entire cube, which is great. So, before I start, I want to make one thing really clear. If you're using the algorithms that I teach, and time after time, attempt after attempt, it still doesn't work, it is because there's something wrong with your first 2 layers. You might want to check if the pieces are correct. You can refer my previous videos to try to spot out characteristics that can determine whether they're correct or not, but with that aside, let us move on. So, right now, like the beginner method, first thing we want to do is orient all of the edges to form like a yellow cross on a ghost cube. So it's the same algorithms for L, we do that. Of course, all the algorithms are in the description in case you're unfamiliar with the beginner method of 3x3. So now, one thing we need to make clear is that on a 3x3 Rubik's Cube, we can determine what faces up using their colors. But then, on a ghost cube, well, it's definitely not the same story. There are various methods to do this, but one of the most reliable methods that I use myself is memorizing. Since it's not really hard to memorize the different shapes here, I think that's the best method we should use here, and that's the method I will teach. So, let's name our pieces first. So this, the longest one, I call it the noose, you can call it whatever you want. After that, we have this trapezium. We have this shield shape, it's like a shield. And then we have this rectangle. It's not a perfect rectangle, but let's call it a rectangle. So we memorize it like this. For the noose, the pointy side of it needs to face up. For the trapezium, the right side needs to be longer than the left side, in which this one is like flipped. For the shield, the pointy side must face up. And lastly, for the rectangle, the left side must be longer than the right side, in which you can see in this case, left side is in fact a little bit longer than the right. So with that, we can determine that this is correct and this is correct, whereas these two are wrong, because in the noose, the pointy one is facing downwards instead of upwards. This doesn't count as a pointy side, it's like a flat surface. This is the pointy side. And then for this trapezium, it's also the same. Unfortunately, the left side is longer than the right, so this is wrong as well. So we know these two are correct, these two are wrong. And what does that look like? That looks like this. Which these two are correct, just like these two, whereas these two are wrong orientation, just like these two. So we use the same algorithm. If here we will use this, it's the same here. We just put the L right here of the correct pieces, and then we do this. So in case you're unfamiliar, there are 3 cases. There's dot, there's line, and then there's this L shape. So yeah, assuming you're familiar with the 3x3 beginner method, this should be no big deal. So now, as you can check, they're all in a correct orientation. Pointy tip facing upwards of the noose, the shield pointy facing upwards, the trapezium right side longer than left, and the little rectangle, the left side is a little bit longer than the right side, since it's not like a perfect rectangle. So right now, we'll be using the Soon algorithm. Now this is a little bit different from the 3x3, in which what we'll do is we find the piece on the cross that is flush with the center right here. You see, you can see it's perfectly straight here, it's perfectly flush, whereas the rest is, obviously not flush. We put that at the front, facing us, and then you do the Soon algorithm. Now you may ask, what if I reach this step and none of the pieces are flush with the center? Is there something wrong with our first 2 layers? No, not necessarily. If no piece is flush, just do the Soon algorithm from any angle, and assuming your first 2 layers are correct, then a piece will become flush, and then you can do this, in which, as I said, we put the correct piece in the front, and then we do the Soon algorithm. Or just do the Soon with this facing me, like facing the front. And tada! As you can see, now the cross is perfectly oriented. which all the pieces are flush with the center. Of course, we can verify it by looking at it from the side right here. They are in fact all perfectly flush. So yeah, that's how we know it's correct. So assuming you did the soon and you didn't get this state, don't worry. If you didn't get this state, that means that once again, you got one piece that's flush. Just once again, put the flush piece in front of you and do the soon again. You will get it eventually. Maximum you'll take like 2 or 3 soons, no more than that. So now, exactly same as the beginner method, we identify the piece that is in its correct position. Like this one is obviously wrong, this doesn't belong here, but this obviously belongs here. And if this was like this, you just like this, it will also be said to correctly belong here. So I'm sure you're familiar with this logic, so we can do the same for the ghost cube. Now, I got quite lucky case in which it's pretty obvious that this triangle, as a matter of fact, does belong here. So what I want to say is that this, the noose, should remember that these two should be triangles and these two are not triangles. They're these weird, wacky pieces, okay? And these two are perfect triangles. So in case you're not so lucky, you didn't get like a piece perfectly flush like this to help you determine that it's correct, as long as you have a triangle at one of these two spots that is at the sides of this noose, then you just assume they're correct and do the Nicholas. If it doesn't work, then just try another piece. It's also quite a lot of trial and error. So just like using a 3x3, I can put it at the right side and do the Nicholas algorithm. Or maybe on the left side if you use a different Nicholas algorithm. Just go with what you learned for the beginner method of 3x3. I'll just do my Nicholas. And there we go. It's not perfect yet since I know that two sides of the noose should be the little triangles, and this is definitely not a triangle. This needs to be here. So I'll do it again. And it didn't work once again, so I'll just repeat it again. And guess what? Right now, all of them are in their respective positions, which two sides of the noose are the little triangles, and back here are these weird pieces. So, I'll do the same thing on the 3x3. Yep. So now we reach a state that's like this, in which all the pieces are in their respective positions, but they need to be twisted. In which this, if I twist it like this, it will be correct. Same to be said with the other pieces. Just like this state, in which is in this correct position, but needs to be twisted. So you could twist your ghost cube, but we don't do that here. It's the same. Flip it over, just like a 3x3 beginner. We just keep between RU, R prime, U prime. Just keep doing it until the piece is correct. We shift it over. This is exactly like a 3x3, and I'll just rinse and repeat. So now it's correct, that's great. So I'll just move the last piece over, and I'll just do the same few moves over and over. And there we have it. Of course, it doesn't look solved yet. We'll just match the pieces correct. And there we have it. We have solved the hardest 3x3 shape mod in the world, the ghost cube. Just like that. It's pretty simple, isn't it? So, as usual, if there's any questions you would like to ask, leave them down in the comments. I'll be very glad to help you out. I'll do it as soon as I can. And that's it. That's the ghost cube. You have learned how to solve one of the hardest puzzles in the world. Congratulations!